Hello, people. Welcome to today's episode. And today we're talking about the best amplifier or the best practice amplifier that money can buy. Well, I think it is anyway. I am Hello Sailor Joe, and today my co-host is...
Space Wolf, John Mulholland.
You'll have to suffer just the two of us today because, we haven't got any guests.
Yeah, that's all right. We have a lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, we were supposed to have Mike Rivers from Mike Rivers Guitars on. But, he's... I think he didn't want to come across on the camera. That's what it is.
Oh, well, some people are camera shy. It's not for everyone, for sure.
No, exactly. Yeah, same here. Well, if you can't tell, I'm camera shy anyway.
I'm a little camera conscious, not camera shy. I had to get over that early on when I was a performer. You're going to have stuff pointed at you all the time.
So. Well, I can't say I've ever performed, but yeah. And I'm absolutely late today, so me and John are going to probably have 5 minutes catch up, see what's going on in our worlds that we normally do off camera, but as I say, I'm definitely late today. So how have you been, mate? You've been in the thick of it, haven't you?
I have, yeah. Been playing a lot of multiple roles. I put my plumber's cap on and fixed a whole bunch of different fixtures around the house. It's the wonderful thing about planned obsolescence is when one thing fails, everything else is going to fail at the same time. So,
and you still haven't missed a post, even though you've been...
I've slowed down a little bit. I don't know if I've, put out the same kind of volume, but I had to sort of be like, okay, I'm building like things like this now. I need to kind of focus. Starting to put effects pedals and plastic skulls, and so, and then now I can't go to a store without looking around and seeing what can I put something in. It's like everything becomes an enclosure. It's pedalitis. Yeah. So
I love it.
It's reinfected me once again. That's the great thing about this circuit too, is this circuit was the gateway for me to really get into a lot of stuff. And it kind of came around full circle because when I got back into building small signal electronics, first thing I built was a noisy cricket. And
oh, man.
So I had one and then started seeing what else I had, and it blossomed from there, and here we are today.
Well, you sent me pictures of the old runoff groove circuit drawings.
Oh yeah,
from way back when, and I will try and recall them today if I can get them up. I've been practicing my recall skills. But yeah, them circuits, I remember that website. God,
it was beautiful. That was like one of
2009, 2010. It's got to be
earlier than that.
I was looking at.
I think, yeah.
I'd only just started, and I was like looking at these circles. Like there's a Marshall overdrive pedal with 3 J201s on, and I was like, how does anyone build this?
Yeah, there were some really, really outside the box designs there that kind of pushed the envelope and challenged you as a builder to really understand the circuit.
I built quite a few of them that didn't work actually for many years. That's why I'm so amazed with your amplifiers, because you've actually built them the same way.
There's some little tricks that I learned. Yeah, there's some little tricks that I learned that we'll get into, because there's some stuff that on those original schematics people modified because of little issues like what you've run into and things not working. And so we'll go into some of that, and hopefully I can read the chicken scratch on the notes where I've written a bunch of stuff for different things. I've got papers scattered everywhere because this was decade and a half ago, at least, when I started that journey. So I was going to say it's around 2006, 2007, maybe, when I first built this.
Well, I didn't start till the end of 2008, so I'm well behind you there. We've got quite a few people in the chat.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say the same thing. Hello to the Death Dealer. And
hello, mate.
Justin, hello. Good to see you, man. And Story Slide. And Mike Rivers, hey, there you are.
The man, the legend.
Yes, sir.
I got to say, Justin, your new enclosure, I don't know if you've seen the sneak peek you posted the other day.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It is.
Yeah. And then you mix that with the old heart-shaped circuit. Come on, mate. As ever in this episode, John's going to be leading the technical discussion, and I'm going to be along for the ride because I've only built literally the Ruby Amplifier as it is. in its well, I found the tag board version, and I haven't really strayed too far from that. And you've actually built a ton of these things.
Oh, multiple permutations of it. Yeah. The Ruby is actually based off of something called the Little Gem, which was also off of Runoff Groove. I sent you a schematic for that. And it had, instead of the 2 potentiometer configuration where you had a volume and sort of a gain, you know, so you could get overdrive, you had just a gain knob, like a 5K potentiometer for the gain. And that
I think I remember seeing that.
Yeah, and that was, of course, based off of the cigarette pack amplifier that everybody may or may not remember. It gained some notoriety as a studio amp with the black keys. That's how they got a lot of that real dirty, gritty sound for some of their early albums, was they used the little Smokey amp direct in to...
so many people have done this sort of thing, haven't they? I mean...
And it's amazing what kind of sound you can get out of a cabinet through this thing. That's the thing that a lot of people, I don't think, really understand. When you take this circuit and you plug it into your Marshall stack or your 212, when I plug this into my 212 Avatar cabinet, I get told to turn it down because it starts rattling the walls. It puts out a lot of volume for a half-watt circuit. And there's other ways you can boost it. There were some people who came up with what they call the Ruby Tubi, where you actually add a 12 AX7 or AY7 into it. And there was also Dano Beavis, the legend from Beavis Audio Research, who produced the Noisy Cricket, which is the circuit that is the final stage, you know, the final boss of the Ruby, basically, because he adds a grit switch and a basic tone control to it. And so
that's the one I've seen.
Yeah. And I mean, he had what he called the Tube Cricket. So
yeah, adding a tube to this is just insane to me. Because
I know you do have to boost the power. You lose the ability to power it off of 9 volts. You have to go up to 12 volts at least. And
it sort of takes away what it is for me.
It does, yeah. I mean, and I haven't built one yet. I've got one in a bag right here, as a matter of fact. Here, no, that's the Octavider. Sorry, wrong bag. That's what happens when you have parts everywhere. I've got a Ruby Tubi in a bag right here, so with my tube socket and enclosure. But one day, whenever I finish building things in skulls, but the other really cool thing about this circuit is that you can put it on a really small piece of circuit board, like, or you don't, you know, and really you only need a piece of circuit board for the IC. You could take something like this, a little round wafer. And so I've got my JFET, my IC socket, and a couple of resistors on there already. And, you know, this is something that we'll talk about too. You see this little capacitor jump between the legs on the back? This is the fix for a lot of the problems with this amplifier. This is why a lot of people get frustrated with it. You need to add a capacitor that jumps between, let me make sure I tell you right before which leg it is. I think it is leg 6 and ground.
Yeah. This is the bit, everyone, where I save this part of the episode and come back and watch it later. Yeah. And I'll be implementing this to all mine.
But you need to add a little capacitor really close there to kind of help carry some current, because the way this circuit is working, it'll get starved really fast. And also there's a lot of oscillation problems that'll pop up in it. This is one of those circuits that taught me that component placement is gold. Like sometimes when you're dealing with amplifiers, especially, if you get components too far apart and you start creating antennas, you start getting like interference, you start getting wild oscillations. One of the main things on this circuit is use as short of leads as you possibly can to connect things. Like the longer your wire, the better chance you have of creating a lot of interference. Then you also, if you have the capability, use shielded wire, like a braided, shielded, enclosed wire, especially for certain key components, and also braiding your wire, your leads, braiding them together. That helped a lot. But you can also create, with those braids, you can create certain kinds of weird oscillators it's strange. Like some of the stuff I found out when I was working with this circuit before I actually got it to work consistently were amazing. I mean, it really made me go and do some deep dives, research. I read way too many posts on forums that I didn't really care about. You know, had to sort through all of the pettiness to find somebody that actually cared. I got off of forums for so long because of that. It was just like, you know, you'd get your handful of people that really were into this, and then a whole bunch of people that were, you know, keyboard warriors wanting to sit back and say that they could do it better than you, and that, you know, whatever circuit you were working with sucked, and the circuit that they did was the best. And, you know, for $2 you could get their schematic and all this other stuff. So
I get a lot of people telling me that I'm doing it wrong, and then when you actually do a bit of digging and looking,
that's when I know that's when I know to keep going further down that rabbit hole. It's like, if that many people are telling me I'm doing it wrong, I must be onto something, because they're scared. Equally, you turn that transistor around backwards, you're doing it wrong. And the boot face was born.
And then when you turn it on, people go,
"Oh, well, how'd you do that?" I did it wrong.
Well, not every single, most things in the guitar world that are amazing have started out with something wrong. Let's face it.
Oh yeah. I mean, come on. You know, distortion.
The Bassman was meant for bass. Anyone?
Mm-hmm. You know, if that amp hadn't fallen off the back of that truck or car or whatever it was on the way to the studio, Rocket 88 would never have sounded the same.
Wasn't the first distortion You Really Got Me Now? Was it that song?
No.
Slash speaker?
No, that's kind of.
We going Keith
we're talking
Richards
about.
for fuzz?
We're talking Rocket 88. That was kind of what a lot of people, because it was an accident where an amplifier for the band on the way to their studio to record the song got damaged. It fell off of either the car or the truck that it was being transported in, and it had a distorted sound, and they didn't have a replacement amplifier, and they didn't have time to go get another one, so they just used it, and it became a hit. And Rocket 88 refers to an Oldsmobile, the Oldsmobile 88. And so
it's always with cars, isn't it? With the old,
especially in the 50s. I mean, that was it. Like, you know, car culture, you know, post World War II, you know, everybody had some cash. Everybody, you know, was living large with their Kelvinators and you know, their TV dinners, Chuck Berry on the radio, doing the twist.
Good to me. Anyway, so Ruby Amplifier.
Oh, yes.
Got to give a shout out to Jason Wade listening on his drive home.
Oh, yes. Hey, Jason.
Mike Rivers is pointing out Smokey amp. So actually, with that round circle PCB you've just shown me, it's reminded me of Mike Rivers' Pringle amplifier. So a tube of Pringles.
Yep.
What?
Yeah.
That's
you
insane.
Can fit this circuit inside of anything. You really can. I mean, I had one that kind of was halfway done. That was a little Halloween lantern that was an LED lantern that was a black skull, and I'd come up. That's what that circuit board was for. That was going to be the brains for the whole operation, and there were other off-board components that I was going to mount, you know, strategically in there. And, you know, you see where that got. It ended up becoming a fuzz pedal instead, and it's not even the same skull. I knew him well. So. And you know, talking about like interesting things. I don't know if you can hear that or not. Well, it's Chopper is the name of the character. I don't know. I've got some ideas. I have some mad science ideas brewing around for that, but you know, you'll probably find an LM386, as you would like to say, in the circuit board on that. It's such an ubiquitous chip. It was really a workhorse for a lot of toys and consumer electronics. So you know, there were a lot of them made. I've been out of the acquisition game for so long. I've got a lot of them. I don't even know, are they one of those unobtainable chips now? I was amazed at what the price of my 308s are. Like I have a whole bag of,
isn't it, the 308?
Yeah, I have a whole bag of NOS 308s that, you know, I bought for, like, it was part of a grab bag for like $15. There were a whole bunch of other ICs and, you know, germanium transistors, you know, a lot of goodies that I still use and things today. And I just sorted them out and never did anything with them. They were still in packages labeled, and they're all new old stock National Semiconductor for the most part. Some of them military spec. And I looked them up, and they're $20 a piece for the real ones, and people are counterfeiting them. I'm like, you're counterfeiting an LM308? Are you insane? I mean, that's like crazy. And like, what happened? And so I started doing the research, and Rat Mania took over. And,
look it does. The J201s, you can't get them now for
I've got a bunch of them because of this circuit. I have a whole bunch of J201s, and I don't like them. Yeah. I prefer the 102, which is also unobtainium.
Yeah.
But I also have a bunch of 102s because when Mammoth Electronics was still around before StompBoxParts.com.
Oh, is that what they changed into?
Yeah, they kind of like bought up their inventory, Mammoth, and I think they were kind of like a couple of companies that fused together to become StompBoxParts.com. I think that was the story that Ross was telling me whenever I was talking to him, because he bought a bunch of those 308s. They're really into the Rat circuit there. That's one of his like bread and butter designs, and so he took a lot of them off my hands, and I got a lot of parts in trade. So it was a win-win. Yeah. The rat building community has some legitimate 308s to work with that are verified, so you don't have to worry about your whatever is it an 82 that they're taking and scratching off and then rescreening. It's whatever the replacement was for the Rat that's still available, and they're just scratching the screen printing off of it and rescreening it with 308. And there's like little ways you can test to make sure that the sag is correct, because they have different sag rates, which is why everybody wants the 308. When you have it at a certain setting, really cranked on the Rat, that's where it shows its glory. That's when you can hear the difference. And it's because
I really like how people get into the weeds of this thing.
It's because it's an underperforming chip, and that's the beauty of this 386 too, is it's got this like, sort of unpredictability. Like there's, some dirt in it that sometimes it does things, you're like, how can I get it to do that again? And it won't, it just happens.
I've had octaves out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Almost, I mean, it just like, I'm like, how did this happen? It just picked up the right Mexican radio station that particular night that you were jamming in the guitar store. I'm serious. Like I had an audience like outside of the guitar store because I was building the Grace circuit. When I finally got the Grace circuit, which is based off of this Ruby amp as a guitar pedal, I was in the guitar store late at night and had my Stratocaster and had it cranked up through whatever amp du jour that I was into at the time that was in the store, and playing my pedal through it with my fuzz face circuit that the owner of the store had built. And by the time I'd finished, I looked outside the big windows and there was this audience gathered there. They were cheering because like the thing sounded so great, but it never sounded that good again. It was that evening, whatever, the stars aligned, but it did things that were magic that night, but it still did other things that were magic. And I found a circuit I like better that's more like a blues breaker called the Big Daddy. And
so you think you sent me that one?
Yeah, that tames it a little bit, and it makes it a very usable pedal. I've actually sold quite a few of those to individuals.
That's going to be my next iteration. And here we've got Mike Rivers again. He's using 2M5457s or 5457s.
Those are a really good substitute that I found.
I'm struggling to find them that aren't from China or.
That's insane, But again, I guess it goes back to that discussion where everything's gone surface mount, and so these through mount components are becoming dinosaurs. Unless there's something that demands the production of them, they're just going to not produce them. They're going to take them off the line.
Well, so I use the old 5 Cats pedals, little PCBs, so that you can solder the SMD components too.
Right, too.
And it's got the 3 legs, so you can plug it into a regular through hole.
Yeah, those adapters are pretty cool like that.
It's the only way to guarantee you're getting a real thing.
When I was doing the experiments with the pedal, the J111 was a JFET that I liked a lot. It had a really good range of tones. The J113 at one point it was my choice.
That's what I use.
Yeah, but I was we're talking about me being nitpicky, where I'm getting down to like rates of sizzle and decay and like
swell. People can't
like
see, but I'm actually online now looking J111.
And the spec sheet for it, it's in combination. I've got a giant spec sheet for them here too, where it's the 111, 112, 113. Then they also have the surface mount versions of it, the MMBF 111, 112, etc. In-channel switcher. But I really like the 5457 in my notes here, and we're going back. This is a trip through the old memory lane time tunnel here for Space Wolf. So I'm going back and reading notes that I made on stuff and remembering like these things as I'm reading.
So what exactly is it that you were looking for, mate, in each one? Is it?
That's what I'm trying to remember. Yeah, because I was getting down to where this was like fine tuning, where I had working circuits, and now I was like, where are the real like little flavors that I can tweak? And when somebody says I want this, I put this in the circuit, because that's kind of the audience that I was building for. These were like really picky studio musicians and live performers that had a very distinct sound in mind. We didn't have a lot of knobs and switches. Usually it was like they would get it to a setting and they just needed ranges so that it could get to that setting and whatever setting they were in. And so we were really getting it, down to where I put this on, plug and play, it's part of my sound.
That's the difference, isn't it, when the studio musicians can use it? And if anyone's interested, Fuzzdog has some 5457s, as my American brethren would say. Great people over at Fuzzdog. They are literally, their kits are amazing.
Yeah. And, there's also a lot of other suppliers, a lot of the DIY suppliers out there, just go for the people like Small Bear, DIY Stomp Boxes. I'm pretty sure that General Guitar Gadgets has some parts, like stuff like that. He always has rare components for his kits that I've bought. Like he's got ICs that, when I priced the IC, it was almost the same price as the entire kit, sans box. So that's what I did. I just bought a kit. I was like, wow, I'll get all the capacitors, resistors, and everything else, and a circuit board. Sign me up. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
See here in the notes. I didn't really like the 201 that much in the pedal design. It didn't have a lot of boost or crunch. And it was a full boost of the signal, but I just didn't like it for whatever reason. I just kind of poo-pooed the 201s. So that's why I have a lot of them.
Well, I don't like them because my Kossoff drives are JFET, and I really didn't like the 201s in it.
So maybe in the amplifier circuit, they're better. I'll have to revisit. I'll have to do some A/B tests. Oh, we froze up. Joe froze up anyway. I'll keep going. There you are. Hey.
Sorry, team. My internet's terrible. I'm in the middle of moving, so
yes. A storm of a different kind, for sure. Yes.
Oh yeah, not quite as aggressive, I think.
Yeah, not nearly as aggressive, but it probably is. Just as much like having to sort through things afterwards. Well, we're frozen again. I'm looking at Joe. And I guess I'll chat with you guys a little bit. So, hey, Mike, you're working on a circuit to fit into a Roberts 707. That sounds pretty cool. And the 2N 5457, I think that's a really good all-around JFET. I like to use it also as a clipping diode in my tube screamer circuits. So that's another thing that JFETs are pretty cool for, is you can wire two of the legs together and insert them in your clipper circuits and get some really cool sounds like that. So a lot of people are afraid of JFETs. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's one of my favorite mods for the tube screamer that I saw in some of the different modifications, is where you think you're using a 5457 and then maybe a pair of 4148s. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the exact mod, but I've also played around with it where I've got a 5457 on one side and then another just silicon transistor on the other. Like,
cool.
tried different pairs like that, especially if I find transistors that have gone bad and turned into diodes already. If it's turned itself into a diode, I'll throw it in a clipping circuit and see what it does. Hey, you want to be a diode, do you? So,
well, someone actually asked on one of my videos today if I ever socket my diodes in the pedals, but I never do, because I've kind of found what I like. Maybe in the early days, I definitely did. But yeah, I just never do. What about yourself? Do you like to socket them?
It depends. If it's a diode that has something to do with the sound, yes, I like to socket them, because I've had some new old stock components that go in, sounded great for the first week, and then germanium being germanium, like fatal flaw showed itself, and pop, there goes the diode. So rather than having to desolder, and also it's just one of those things that, for me, those are some of the most sensitive components, and in a lot of the builds early on, it was always something that said, put your transistors and your diodes in sockets, and if you don't, make sure they're the last thing you solder onto the board. So it was a habit that I developed early on, so I just started doing it. If it's a power diode, I don't really bother with it, but if it's a clipping diode or something else that affects the sound, then yeah, I'll put it in a socket. I think I probably have gone through hundreds of strips of that snap strip socket. I mean, and when I run out of that, I've got IC sockets that I've cannibalized and cut apart and turned into sockets to use on my socketed boards. So, there's pedals of mine out there that you might see, like a little 3-part section of an IC socket that I took apart and used that for my transistor socket. So,
I love it.
I'm a whatever works kind of guy.
So, I don't know about anyone else, but I've got so many questions about this circuit in particular. Let me see if I can get it up. So, this Grace overdrive that you've built, what do you follow this exact thing?
Well, that was my starting point, and that's where the permutations from that came about. This is, I don't know how well we can see it here.
Yeah,
this is a blown up.
Let me put you as the.
Well, this is a blown up version of the PC that I made that I ended up burning. I burned my own PC boards for this, and it was so that I could have a component layout idea. And I've got my component values written on here, so we can maybe go and compare those to what we have on there. I'm using for R1, I'm using 4 meg 7 resistor. Is that the same as?
Why is that so high? This is my first question, funny enough.
There was a good
reason. I was just 1 meg.
There was a good reason for that, for this as an effects pedal. I think it has to do with attenuating it for guitar signal, as opposed to trying to get a signal to go out to a speaker. Like, it may have something to do with your final impedance load. Again, like, we're revisiting. This is a pedal I haven't built again, and I've got all these boards. I'm going to start building some more. So this is another future episode, is like how this can become something that's on your board. You can get the sounds that you like out of this as a practice amp through your regular signal chain. It's one of those a lot of people have really shied away from, though, because until you figure out how this thing can do you wrong, it becomes a nightmare. I mean, it's worse than a fuzz face trying to get it to work right.
Really?
It is worse than a fuzz face.
Is there really no?
That's why I went back to building fuzz faces, is because of this circuit.
Which is notoriously hard to get a good sound out of.
Yeah. So once I figured I could get a good sound out of this, and the fuzz face was easy.
So why no input cap? This is another thing. Is this assuming that it's coming from somewhere else, or?
Let's see. Well, if we trace it, let's see. It's going through your JFET, and you're hitting that 4 meg 7, and then it's connecting. It may be connecting back through your center junction of your JFET, and then going through that 0.0068.
Yeah. Yeah,
capacitor.
that's the way it's going. Yeah.
Yeah, because C3 is your output capacitor, your 0.1 microfarad.
Yeah, it just seems weird that you got like the input straight to the JFET, you know?
I know, and it's also weird that you invert like that, where you're really cutting all your base signals. If that's your input capacitor, and I'd have to really like check myself on this because I'm no electrical engineer, but just my simple switching mind here, it's like, yeah, because that's a place too where that circuit. You can have a switch put in there and you can switch back and forth between the Grace and the Big Daddy circuit. That was my next permutation of this, was the Double Disaster. And it fits on, do I have one? I do have one somewhere, but not handy. It fits on a circuit board. It's about the same size as this round wafer. Like because there's off-board components, I was able to get it in such a small enclosure, but you get both pedals off the same circuit because there's just minor differences.
Oh, it's insane to me. I mean,
and
you can fit so much in such a little.
Mm-hmm. And if you looked on my little layout, I have that. I think I've got success between 1 microfarad and 3.3 microfarads for that electrolytic that is going to your power rail, and that has to be as close to the IC as possible. That's one of those things where component placement is key. You get that thing right on the very rear end of your IC if you can, which is what I did right there. You see right next to my initials and the date, that big round yellow circle, that's that power rail capacitor that it needs to be as close to the IC as possible.
What's the issue if it's far away? Do you get some sort of oscillation, or
you get sag in voltage? That one of the things that someone pointed out on the Instagram post when they talked about they've built this as the Smokey cigarette amp, was that when the battery they found that it was unusable with the battery. And that also is something we can discuss because different 386s have different power consumption rates. So if you're going to use this as a battery powered amp, you need to learn how to test for power consumption on your ICs and find the ones that have the lowest power consumption. So otherwise you're going to have a battery eater. And especially if you do some of the other mods that I talk about doing to this, which add a boost to it where like you make it sound like it's a full stack. So it's insane what you can do with this little amp. And so, but anyway, back to that, huge. Like what that user on Instagram said was that it started sounding farty when the voltage dropped below a certain level, and that's what happens. And that could also be because he had his capacitor too far away. And so as the battery just started losing just enough voltage, that capacitor, just that little bit of distance it has to travel to hit the leg of the IC on the power circuit. If it sags just a little bit, that thing is so sensitive that it translates through the audio signal. And that's why this is such a nightmare circuit. Until people figure that out, it drives them insane why it doesn't sound good.
Yeah. I've been so lucky the way that I built them because it's just laid out on a tag board. There's no, if you're building it the way, because you're not building it on like strip board. If anyone's not seen on the underside, you've actually run traces with wire on the underside of the board, which is a la runoff groove, that sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
It's so hard to do, and of course as you're building,
it's second nature to me. I mean, for me, like I have all these skills as a jeweler, and I've worked like fine motor skills my entire life, so it makes more sense to me to do that than to work with like tag board where you have to scratch off traces. That just seems like a lot of hassle. And if I can, and just the way my mind works too, like I'm very visually oriented. And so I'm visualizing the way the circuit flows as I'm reading the schematic, and just my layouts and everything make more sense when I do it that way. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I design my PC boards and put that into the software. And that's where we'll have have those made, or I'll make them myself. I've kind of given up on making them myself. it's so inexpensive now to have a small batch made. That was the thing. It was like cost prohibitive early on when I started doing this.
But it's easy for the circuit to get away from you and
it
components
is
to start going in each which way.
That's a really interesting point I just saw Justin bring up. He said it would be cool to see these in a radio with a small reverb tank in there too. And I have some small reverb tanks. They're available, real spring reverbs that you can get, and they'll fit inside of your radio enclosures. Yeah, they're like in a little blue plastic enclosure, and that was why I bought them.
Use them.
Yeah.
In fact, I really want one of his reverbs.
Yeah, I would love to build. Oh man, love to build some reverb stuff like that. Mm-hmm.
I'm fairly sure he's just got like a JFET preamp driving it. And,
yeah. I've been going down so many rabbit holes since I started getting back into this. It's like I gotta like find a range of focus because I want to build everything. It's like, okay, I need to finish building the things I said I was going to build. I have that whole pedal board that. But in the process of doing that, get this, I've found all these other things. I've found, I'll pull something out. It's like, oh, here's like a radio that has all this like vintage transistor circuitry. Is like, and I just start seeing what's in it, and like I can build this out of it. I found a CB radio that's full of germanium transistors, and then the old smoke detector that we took down, it's got a bunch of stuff in it. So now that CB radio and that vintage 1970s smoke detector are become a two-pedal pair. We're going to become Smokey and the Bandit because, Smokey the smoke detector, and it can be a dual pedal in the smoke detector. There's enough to do two effects that stack well together. And then, the CB radio with all the stuff inside of it. I mean, it's just... We've created a monster. It's like my brain now just looks at things and like, what can I get off of this old board and what can I turn it into? I start seeing pedals and things. Both. It's like it's better than other things I guess I could have been infected with. I'll tell you that. Keeps me from visiting the doctor on a regular occasion.
So speaking of going off on tangents, Bravo 2-0 says, what do you guys think of the ODR1? Honestly, mate, I've never played one. I've never even seen the circuit.
Me neither. Yeah. What is an ODR1?
Boss pedal, definitely. But
overdrive one?
I think it's the 2-knob overdrive that Boss did first. Is it that one? I couldn't tell you. I'm still...
that's one of those things that I've not really had. I mean, I probably have had experience with it, as many different things as I've had encounters with, but like long-term experience and being able to make any kind of like informed judgment, I can't tell you. I'm not the person that's
I've not looked. Is anyone in the chat like Mike?
Yeah, I was going to say somebody else in the chat jump in there, because this is a good time for me to grab this and segue. I sent you, one of the things I remembered, I had this in my collection, this little Radio Shack Archer amplifier.
Oh yes, so actually, I've
and you have 1/8 inch in, and you have a speaker out, and it's attenuated for a 16 ohms. So I switched my Avatar 212 over to 16 ohms. I switch it between 4 and 16 because I have impedances for both for my heads, and put 1/8 inch adapters to 1/4 inch out on this. Plug my guitar in, and it's a monster. The way that they have this thing wired up, it's at full gain, and the potentiometer is actually a drive. So instead of getting louder, that little potentiometer is also a switch. It's what turns it on. As you turn it up, it gets dirtier, and you can turn it up to. You can turn this thing up to full volume, and then roll the volume off on your guitar, and you get cleanup. It's like it's a fuzz pedal.
I just love how the circuit looks inside there.
I know, and it's a totally different. Cool. It doesn't use a JFET. This is the other reason why I brought this up, is when you started saying that, JFETs are unobtainium, even the ones that used to be like the known substitutes for the ones that they had discontinued. I was like, well, this is just using an NPN transistor,
which is crazy.
There's no JFET, and the input is going in through the potentiometer, like it's in through the 5K pot, which is why it's just a drive control. It's like you're basically, giving yourself a variable resistor and you're just adding, dirt to the circuit.
And that small speaker as well, I bet you that sounds quite pokey,
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that kind of thing with a mic in front of it in the studio is gold. I mean, you're talking like, Grammy-winning producer credits if you have something like this.
It's crazy how many people have used these small amps. I mean, look at Brian.
It's a secret
May
weapon. It's really a secret weapon. A lot of people don't know about it, but some of the best. It sounds like you're playing through like daisy chain Marshall stacks that are about to melt down, and the speakers are going to catch on fire because you went to 11.5, and it's a little smoky.
Well, that's a little bit hard to record as well. The full stack thing, isn't it?
Exactly. Well, yeah, and so you can get the same sound without having to like destroy your ears in a studio.
Yeah. Unless you're Clapton with your Blues Breaker combo, there's no recording loud.
It's true.
Oh man. Well, so what's the next amp that you're going to build then?
Well, I've got quite a few in process, so that's the thing. Like that is the thing. Here's one that I built, and I built it. It's a Noisy Cricket. Then I took it a step further. This is one that there goes my LED. It also has, as you can see, it has that capacitor jump.
Oh yeah.
Like this is how far I'd gotten into working with this circuit before I finally figured this out. Is I had already burned circuit boards for a bunch of these things, and they would be working great, and then suddenly, what happened? Why is it not working? And so I had to dive so far into so many posts I didn't want to about people talking about how this sucked and everything to find somebody that actually took the time. And I think it was somebody that's a legend, somebody like, one of your Mark Hammer type characters, or, Jack Ormond, or one of the guys from the forums in the day that said that he took, I want to say it was a 22 microfarad electrolytic and jumped it between those points on the IC, and he did it directly.
Quite a lot of capacitance there, isn't it?
Yeah. And then other people said that they experimented and they got it down to where they didn't even need an electrolytic, and it was a static, like around a 0.1 or 0.2. They said just as long as it carried enough current between, to keep it from having that momentary sag that caused it to do whatever wild oscillating thing it would do. That's why it was so gremlin-y, because it would work great, and then you turn it on another time and it would work horrible. And sometimes it depended on which power supply you were using. Was your battery dying? Were you using like your Boss adapter, or were you using like your multi-adapter wall wart with all the different plugins on it? So it's a very sensitive circuit, and so there's little tweaks. And because this is a DIY circuit, like it's pretty much open source how this stuff came about. Like it was sort of abandoned on the forums too. And a lot of people, when I started asking questions, were like, wow, you're into this? This is like it's such old news. Like, why are you wanting to even explore this? We've discovered that this is horrible. I'm like, are you kidding me? I've gotten great results out of this now. And nobody wanted to believe me. And they just said, oh, build a real pedal. So I was like, okay, I'm done with your forums. I'm going to go over here and do what I do. You guys can go like argue about, which germanium transistor has the best crunch for your, fuzz face at which HFE. And I'm going to go over here and do what I like.
Yeah, exactly.
As the man in black would say.
Yeah.
Turn the screws on me, I'll screw right out from under you.
I love it. So many people tell me, you shouldn't. Like, when I first started building fuzz faces, I got so many people saying, what are you trying to achieve with using odd transistors or odd this, or, why have you got a photo transistor in there and all stuff? Like,
okay.
I don't have the sound, not.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, for me, tone is king. Tone is everything. Billy Gibbons is like, if you don't have tone, you don't have anything. That's one of his favorite things to say. And Bravo 2-0, he says it's an overdrive pedal that Noble's built, used by Nashville guitarists. I am familiar with it. Okay. Yeah, the original vintage pedals go for thousands of pounds plus. Yeah, yeah.
That's the
Now
ODR one. Yeah.
it's the other green pedal.
It's the green pedal.
It's
Yeah.
the other green pedal.
That's the one. Yeah,
That's
the other
why.
one.
Yeah. And I've just
I definitely
recently
haven't
become
had any.
aware of it. Yeah, I haven't had any experience, but I have become aware of it. Simon would be better to chime in on that. You know, Simon would definitely be the one to have an opinion.
Pretty sure he's built a few. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's, you know,
come on, man.
He developed a career out of hating a circuit so bad he decided he wanted to find out why he hated it so bad, so he ended up loving it. I love that story. That's great.
It's class. The thing is, he definitely sees life in ones and zeros. He can just tell you, you know.
I don't know. I think he sees it in more than that. I think he sees it in ones and zeros and particle threads and waveforms and other stuff. It's that he just hasn't encountered any other beings that can speak the same language yet.
I'm telling you, sometimes he messages me and I just pretend I'm busy, but really what I'm doing is Googling the shit out of everything. So that
Make sure you sound like you have a clue.
Yeah, because I know he's going to be looking like, this guy does not know what I'm talking about here. And I get on Google and try and learn it quickly, and then, hey, he's good.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, like, I guess on this circuit, my next steps that permutated off of that noisy cricket build that I just showed you was when I first got back into building things. I wanted to build an effect pedal that I had wanted to build forever, and I had the stuff. It was one of those projects. It's like, oh, I'll get around to it. It's like, well, I'm finally going to get around to it. So I built what was Craig Anderson's circuit that became the Red Llama. That's what Way Huge took their idea to create the Red Llama for, but it's called the Tube Sound Fuzz. And then also Electro Harmonics did a permutation of it called Hot Tubes. But the original Tube Sound Fuzz is, the original Tube Sound Fuzz is a completely different circuit from either the Red Llama or the Hot Tubes. And it pretty much is based off of a CMOS hex inverter, a 4049. And it boosts. I mean, you cannot get the gain. You cannot get the gain past 1 on this thing without it being ear splitting. Like, I'm seriously, like, I have rattled everything, and I haven't been able to like turn the amp up because the boost off of this pedal is so loud. So if you have a weak anemic pedal, you slam it into this thing as a clean boost, it becomes a god. Like, that's one of the things that's why I started using it as like a hybrid with some of the other circuits. I'm like, well, this is a pretty weak circuit by itself. It needs a kick in the ass. And so I do this. And this was just like, I had it kind of spread out. You can get this a lot tighter. But I have this. It was mounted underneath here. And so I had the controls there for it. And it was slamming the noisy cricket above it. So it was like a double-decker circuit. And it would run off of 9 volts, but not for long. You could get 25 minutes of glory, and then it started crapping out. So but that's because that CMOS chip, like I said, it's a power consumer.
Yeah.
Like, I would do tests and go back and like take a fresh 9 volt and read it, and it was like, oh wow, I just lost 2 volts in 20 minutes.
I think the Chupacabra from Mythos Pedals uses one. I'm pretty certain it uses the same IC or chip.
Yeah, the 4049 hex inverter. There was another one that used the 4009 as well, I think. And it's basically turning it into a linear op amp. And again, that's another pedal where if you don't understand layout and getting your components, in the right position, it can give you nightmares. Yeah. And also if, you get it like to where it wants to oscillate, and you can get it to where you can get some really cool effects out of it because you can get it right on the edge of oscillation and then control that we're talking picofarads. You're just literally changing by picofarads in this one stage on this circuit. And it's the difference between oscillate and not oscillate.
And of course, you're putting it into this little amplifier that's quite lively as it is.
And it makes it 3 times louder. It makes people say, what was that? I mean, I was afraid I was going to blow the speaker. I really was. I was afraid I was going to blow my little Sony speakers.
I was testing the amp that I sent to Justin last week, or when I first built it anyway. I'm on my school run, dropping my picking my child up from school. My neighbour said, "Oh, I heard you playing guitar yesterday." I was like, "What?" He said, "Yeah, it sounded quite good. It was this tiny little amp, and it obviously next door could hear it, so they get some volume. So adding that in front must really."
Yeah. Well, the NPN boost that I just built, that drives it really nicely too, and that might be a good compromise to maintain battery life. That's my next. So that kind of segues into what my next project with this is going to be, is take that boost circuit. It's a real simple NPN booster that Gus Smalley put out there on the forums, back in the early days, that uses real easily obtainable values. It was one of those things. This is a project anybody can build with what's at your, fingertips in a kit, like Simon was saying. 10K resistor, 2N222 2A transistor, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so, and it really works. It works great. And when I, put a germanium transistor in it, it sounds amazing. So that, running through that little Radio Shack amp in my test last night, I was like, oh, this has potential. So, that might be my next thing, is put that NPN boost circuit in as your input circuit first before it hits the 386, and then use that as kind of like, sort of a preamp for the amp, which I guess is what it basically is. Yeah.
What's your preferred speaker type?
Oh, wow. That is a good question. Yeah. Because I like to go through all kinds of different speakers and see what they sound like. I'm notorious for going to thrift stores and buying old stereos that are in the $1, $2 range. Love it. And that's what
is a man that used
it's what this was
with one of these. Oh yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, I like that you've got both wired up.
Well, I don't have the other one.
So Reeves Electro's in the chat, and he actually built one of these amplifiers. And
oh, cool!
I'm pretty sure it was like he's got it with a 10-inch speaker.
Yeah, it drives. It'll drive, like I said, it'll drive a 412.
Yeah.
It drives
so
my 212
I got a confession to make.
Like
I wanted to know how much wattage it put out, obviously, because different ohm output speakers will give you different wattages. And I was Googling for a while, I couldn't find it, so I used ChatGPT, and it gave me a whole calculation for every different type of speaker and how much wattage it put out. It was fantastic.
That's awesome. That's so AI doing what it's supposed to do for you. And
the maths.
Yeah. Reeves Electro says it's a Celestion 815 that
there you go. So that's an 8-inch 15 watt speaker.
15 watt. Yeah. And I've used
they're my preferred jump speakers, to be fair.
Yeah, I like the Jensen the Fender Jensen 8-inch speaker, like you would have as a replacement for a Fender Champ. Those sound pretty cool. But I've got a speaker collection out the I mean, some of them are ones that I bought that are actually like replacement speakers for antique radios, with a very specific type of paper cone and stuff like that. And so it really depends on what I'm going for. If I want a certain sound, like I'm going to make this as a recording amp for a studio, and we're trying to get it to sound like you're listening to the signal through an old radio or something like that, then I'll pick the speaker base for that. If I want clarity, there's a lot of really cool modern computer speakers that are high watt. And so you can build like a little tiny speaker cabinet, because you can wire this thing for a speaker out. You don't have to build the speaker into it by itself. You can also wire it up so there's a separate jack that switches. You shunt that speaker off, and then you have an external speaker so you can plug it into your cab. And so I've built like lots of little tiny speaker boxes that, basically can plug and play and get different sounds out of it that way. And then also I can take my higher watt heads with some of the higher watt car stereo and computer speakers and run them through that. And then you have a different sound for your 200 watt head that you wouldn't normally get through like your 212 cabinet or your 412 or your 410.
Yeah, that's mad. I've actually got a V-front cabinet that my father-in-law made me with 2 6-inch speakers on either side. So it's got 4 speakers in. And cool. I've been wondering what I'm going to do with it eventually. I've got Alnico Jensen 6 inches in there. and I figured I'm going to put 2 Ruby amps in it and run it stereos because I've got a stereo pedal board. So I can have like, wet one side, dry the other side, coming out the same cab. Like,
That'll be
come
cool.
on.
Yeah.
That, I figured that would be my shop amp.
Yeah, the other speaker from the pair, because that was a detachable speaker from a boombox. So it'll be book matched. It'll have another amp, and it'll probably be like a Noisy Cricket instead of a Ruby. And so then you'll have the Noisy Cricket on the right and the 2B on the left and stereo. They also make a dual 386. So I'm trying to remember, was it 380? It's like there's a dual op amp version of the 386 that you can use to make, like you said, a stereo headphone amplifier with. And a lot of your like cheap stereo headphone amplifiers used that chip rather than having to use a pair of 386s.
Well, I actually got a comment in one of my videos recently with a guy. We were talking about turning a Walkman into an overdrive. So, like just taking the circuit out of that and plugging it into it, into the guitar basically through the aux in. So I may do that.
Yep.
I'm not even sure what they use, but it is another one, the Smokey amp.
Yep. Yeah, we talked about it a little bit for sure. Yeah, it's.
I've never built one myself. They look cool.
Yeah,
and there's the brand that does.
They went around as a kit too. You could buy one for about $5 and it slid right into your cigarette pack. Basically, it was almost a plug and play kind of thing. You just had to do the mounting yourself, and so.
Yeah, that's cool. I really haven't delved into like the mods or the variations of this. I've literally just built, well, apart from the detachable speaker, but I've just built what was in front of me so far.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess you would consider the Little Gem to kind of be the first mod made to the Smokey amp, because that's the one that added your gain control and gave you an external, control to it. Because the Smokey, it was just in and out. You had no control. It was what you got. You plugged your guitar in, and the sound that came out was what you got on the other end. So, and anything that you did to tune the sound was done on the board with component choice, so that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. As I say, the Ruby for me is just like the pinnacle of all of this. It's like it's the best compromise, I think, between complex and not. If where you get everything, you get your gain control, you get.
Well, and that's what I liked about the Noisy Cricket. It doesn't make it too much more complex, but you get a tone control, and then you get sort of like a clean and dirty, setting by adding the grit switch, and just he tweaked a few other things to kind of like get some extra juice out of it, I believe, too. Like it seemed like it had a higher output than my Ruby when I A-beat them together.
Yeah. I'm Marcus Reeves saying 0 headroom, which is,
This is true. Very, very zero
definitely.
headroom. Yeah, the little Smokey.
There's just great little
for harp players, yeah, it is. And like we said, it's a great studio amp too, because it has the 0 headroom. You're not gonna have to worry about it overloading. Like when you stick that direct in through the board, it's a very easily manipulated signal in that way. So that's why it was a little secret weapon.
Yeah. I wonder how many things you've heard recorded have been that instead of, a larger amp that you would think was a larger amp.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there's a lot of times where you think, you're hearing a large amp and it's just going through a simulator too now, like the modeling software they've got. I mean, it's really hard to tell. I used to be able to tell. I was like, oh yeah, that's a modeler. That's real. But now I've heard where it's like their sample rates are just so good, and I guess they've got such an understanding of how things worked. Like they've just got it down to that. The only thing is you can't simulate it live. Like in a live listening setting, you can simulate everything it can do in the studio, but what it can do live, you can't. Like a modeler can't give you the same feeling live. And that's because you're interacting with an actual field. You're actually in the electrical field yourself. You're part of it. You know, on a recording, you're not as much, but the live experience, you know, there's a lot of synergy going on that a lot of people discount, but I think it's real. I've seen it happen. Carlos Santana talks about it. Droves.
Yeah. Well, you can hear it in the Blues Break album, Clapton. Mm-hmm. You can hear that's a live amp. Oh, sorry, a loud amp turned up.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. Well, you can hear it in a lot of studio recordings that are classic, iconic ones, like especially the stuff that was recorded at Sound City, like the Rated R album, the Queens of the Stone Age album. You can tell that
there's a guy who didn't he used to use one of them Gorilla amps, you know, the little practice amps.
Oh, Josh.
Josh Scott. Josh Holmes, sorry, Josh Scott.
Yeah. He uses whatever. Like he's another guy like me. He'll if it makes the sound he wants. It's not about what name's on it. It's like, you know, he wants, you know, a tone. He wants a sound. And he's got a huge collection of all kinds of gear. Man. You know.
Glad you made it home, Jason. He has his little travel home. Here's one actually. Wrong one. The Pignose. So that's a great little amp.
Frank Zappa had one that was legendary.
My daughter's got the guitar, you know, with the speaker in.
Oh, the Pignose, yeah.
Yeah, the little thing. Not that she's interested in it, but my father-in-law bought it at, where was it? Might have been in Birmingham. One of the guitar shows anyway. And it sounds great.
Those things are a pretty cool concept. They've got a new one that I saw some guy demonstrating. It's got a built-in amplifier and speaker that actually got pretty loud. It had onboard effects, and he was really impressed. He thought it was just going to be a toy, and he actually ended up going out and gigging with it, doing some busking and costumes and stuff. It was fun. But
I've got to second this, by the way. I heard this today on Instagram. Oh my god!
Oh yeah, that
that fuzz sounded pretty tasty. I got to say, it looked pretty good too.
Yeah, back to what was it we were talking about there with the
the studio recordings.
Oh yeah, with the studio recordings. Oh, the Pignose. Yeah, what Reeves Electric. The Pignose. Mothers of Invention. I feel like, you know,
I feel like they got the aesthetic of that wrong. It just doesn't. I mean, I like the leather, but Pignose and the big.
Well, it was a biker thing, man. It's an American biker thing. You wouldn't understand.
Yeah. It just didn't click with me.
Yeah, no, you'd have to be in that like 1960s, 1970s biker culture to really know what they mean, because it goes into slang for parts on Harleys and stuff like that. And you get pig noses and shovel heads and soft tails and hard tails and. You know, I mean, you're talking like a subculture lingo, you know.
Yeah.
So, but Frank Zappa had a modified Pignose, and it's legendary. So a lot of what you hear on Frank Zappa recordings is a Pignose amplifier in the studio.
Oh, right.
So
I didn't know that. I wonder if anyone's traced that circuit out.
Oh yeah, they definitely have. There's a lot of information on the. Was it Muffin Utility Research Industries? Was that the name of his studio? I think it had to be something like that. It was Muffin Utility something, because, you know, he thought he was a man, but he thought he was a muffin. So,
oh man! And some of the mods that he did to guitars, well, that says it.
Oh, to anything. The mods he did to himself, apparently. Or the mods that the Navy did to him. That was one of the things. He had uranium pellets implanted in his sinuses when he was a kid. So,
that's obviously had some effect as he's grew up.
That kind of probably has a lot of reason behind it. You know, for the things you saw him do, like playing a bicycle on TV. There's I forgot what show it was he came on. It was Ed Sullivan maybe, but he actually played the bicycle. So
I've got to say, I've never really been into Zappa, not the way I'm with most old music.
it's one of those
Is
things
that
that
classed as old music?
when I really want to get weird and, and like, go into that, like Zappa's the place to go, but it's not something I listen to constantly. Like my tastes are all across the board. I mean, so it's just whatever mood I'm in, or, I'll hit shuffle on my playlist and just whatever pops up. And if I don't like it, I'll, skip it. So that's just kind of where I've evolved now.
I wanted to ask, going back to the circuit, is there any other ICs that you can use for the circuit, or is it only the 386? Because I had a comment on one of my videos where someone said, "Oh, you're still using that thing. You should use and I can't remember for the life of me what the IC was called, but I bought a bunch of them and they didn't work. In fact, all it made was smoke."
Oh no! Like the gnomes went on strike. The gnomes went on strike, and they said we can't take it any longer. But yeah, it's so. I was wondering, is there like a substitute for the 386? And maybe, because there are other like ICs that do the same thing. It's just they have different pinouts on the legs. So you would have to redesign the circuit and put your connections to different points, and just know, like, leg 5 on this one is comparable to leg whatever on this one, that sort of thing. And then there's others that are direct drop-ins. Yeah. You might have dropped in something that was, a different pinout, because if it's not a direct pinout replacement, you got to reconfigure your circuit. It's like, if you put
so is Mike Rivers with the LM386N1?
Yeah, but they also had them in, the N1, N2, N3, and N4 series. I think they were various upgrades. The N4 handles a lot higher voltage and produces up to a full watt, I believe. And so there's certain circuits you want to use the N4 in because of its characteristics. But for this circuit, like just a plain old LM386N or N1, when you started getting into things like the tube cricket or the tube Ruby Tubey, that's when an N4 was what you wanted to use.
I didn't even realize there was more than one type.
Yeah, like I said, it's a workhorse of a chip, so they kept developing it, and that's why it was so readily available. I mean, you could pick these things up for like pennies, $5 for $1.
Yeah. Well, I got a really good deal on some for my builds, and when it turned up, they were SMD.
I know the SMD ones that you got. That was class.
That's ridiculous.
I love it.
I started off by saying, right, I'm going to use them.
It's like those people buying the Wish guitars, and they get what they think is a full-size Les Paul, and it's like a 12-inch model. I mean, actual size, shown actual size.
Yeah. So I even on the video, I was like, I'm using this IC, and I started trying to solder a leg onto it. After about 10 minutes, I was just like, oh, fuck. Life's too short. I can't do this anymore.
When I got to that point in the video and you said, I'm going to try it anyway, I said, oh, this is going to go well. I knew where you were headed. And you came back and said, right, I'm not doing that. This. Yeah.
Well, I got like 2 of the legs on, and after I just seen the amount of time it took, I was like, oh, I can't do this. This isn't for me. And all I had to do was look through my drawers and find another one. I was like, yeah, but, I can overcome this mistake. No, I can't. But the thing is, I'm too tight to not use them, so I'll keep them, and I'll buy the boards from Five Cats Pedals, and I'll use them one way or another.
One way or another. Turn them into art.
Do not try and solder the legs. Yeah, don't try and solder the legs onto them. That doesn't work.
I've used components that I've fried before, or that I've found and tested that were already dead. Use those as surface decorations for things like that. Yeah. Did you see the toy car that I built the Noisy Cricket in? The hot rod.
That's fantastic.
You see there's a bumblebee on the front, right? Bumblebee
I thought
capacitor.
That was part of the circuit.
No, that's a dead bumblebee that he collected on the grill of his car. Because that's where a dead bumblebee is going to be. It's on the grill of your car.
Oh yeah.
And there was like a dead transistor splatted on the windshield.
Funny story though. Them bumblebees are actually avoided by most radio guys, and
oh yeah,
no one likes them things apart from
they're horrible.
Guitar.
Yeah, they're
and the old black explode. Beauty caps as well.
They explode.
They don't handle high voltage well.
Well, they also don't handle age well. Like they start corroding internally. That's why that one's on the front of the hot rod amp that I built, was because it just literally swelled itself apart and cracked the case. So it's like, well, your decoration. Yeah, you can't recover from that. That's why, the vintage reproductions are, basically a really high quality capacitor with a big plastic case molded around it,
Yeah.
I don't think they're hand rolling them like they used to.
I love it when Uncle Doug, I don't know if you've seen him redo the filter caps on an old Fender. He uses the casing and fills them with resin, puts the new cap inside. I just think that's
beauty. That is beauty. Yeah.
Just to keep the aesthetic.
Just to keep the aesthetic.
When I open it up, I don't want to see. You don't want to see. F&T caps are amazing. I don't want to see them.
Yeah.
It's
it's all about what we were talking about with the visual you have affecting your performance. If you see that thing that looks like it came out of the mad science laboratory of Dr. Frankenstein, then you're going to play like you're playing through something that came out of the mad science laboratory of Dr. Frankenstein. So
that's why I love them old Roberts radios. They look great. They look so retro, and the speaker inside them's great as well for a little tiny 3 or 4 inch speaker. And I think it is a 3-inch roller speakers. They're fantastic.
Well, you think about it,
the actual aesthetic.
Yeah, they were trying to make it sound as good as possible. This was like a big new thing. The fact that you had a portable radio. I mean, these were luxury items that people, this was like, the iPhone 16 of its day. Everybody was like, that was the status symbol. You had a transistor radio. You could listen to the radio with a battery powered unit. You weren't tethered to a valve state in the living room.
Yeah. I really noticed the difference between that and the Pi radios that I did 2 of them in Pi radios. They sounded noticeably thinner. I don't know whether it was the speaker or the volume of air inside, maybe, or both.
Yeah, I guess the enclosure could have a lot to do with it, because
well, the one I've got left is plastic, so because obviously that was all the rage, but it's really small and plastic, and it sounds kind of tinny or not quite as full.
Is it bakelite plastic? Like really?
Yeah, it is,
that stuff. Man, we need to go back to that. It is like almost indestructible,
but also impossibly expensive. So funny story, the Navy make phones. So all of our handsets are made from bakelite on board, because if it burns, it doesn't give off the toxic gas.
Yep.
And so a friend of mine,
emergency. Yep.
Yeah, a friend of mine got angry in an exercise and smashed one up, and it cost nearly £500 for the handset. Ridiculous.
Well, it's because also it costs so much because it's not the industry standard.
Yeah, exactly.
It's if it was the industry standard, then you would have a
shape like it should be on a dial phone. The shape the way that you would imagine them to be.
Yep,
horrific.
Probably still using the same molds from the old dial phones. They
100%
probably haven't changed the molds since the 1950s. I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Definitely true. Yeah, I don't know about the newer ships because I'm a spent force now. I'm only used to the old ones, but yeah, definitely, because bakelite, it really doesn't give off the toxic gas.
And in a pinch, you can use it as a weapon. I mean, you can club yourself. If you run out of ammo, you can throw it at the enemy and it'll hurt.
Sink a battle cruiser.
Yeah.
But you can tell the difference in quality between a plastic knob, for example, and a bakelite knob.
Just as soon as you touch it. like the tactile sensation. You know, as soon as your fingers touch it, you know the difference. Like it has a different feel.
And if it ages better. Well, better subjective. In my opinion, it ages nicer.
Definitely. It ages nicer. Yeah, that's a better way to put it. You know, better is one of those things that's open up for all kinds of debate. Well, better for who?
Yeah.
Better for you?
I have a real bad
better for me.
On my videos, I say, "Oh, this mod makes it better," but does it really?
Yeah, I mean, you know, for somebody, for whoever sold you the pedal, so they're definitely better.
Funnily enough, when it comes to mods, I've just my buddy Budget Pedal chap asked me to mod a Shaky Jimmy. Have you ever heard of that pedal? From Moen?
Shaky Jimmy.
It's like a vibrato.
I think I've seen it. Yeah, I think I've seen it. It's pretty wild.
It's like a purple pedal with Hendrix on the front. So I can't refinish it because it looks amazing.
Oh yeah.
And the pedal come today. The enclosure's real heavy. It's built fantastic. I'm like, what am I meant to do to this thing? I've got no mod. It's exactly what I would want. So, I've got that coming up. That's going to be fun. I don't know how to improve something that's good.
That's one of those things that I almost would like build a dummy circuit and try out things before committing to the actual modification. Yeah. But how complicated a circuit is it? That's the thing.
Well, it's just the old LDRs. It's got 4 LDRs and just lights on top of them. It's pretty much all.
All right. But well,
I think I'm going to go with the shotgun approach and just upgrade the caps. So I took the back off and I was like, I'll just upgrade all the caps. They're already orange drops. Like, what do you want me to upgrade them
to? I mean, what else is in the circuit that you can like fool around with? I mean,
it's got a load of TLO 62s inside, 4 of them, I think.
Okay.
So I don't know if to upgrade the op amps, but really, I don't know. Yeah, it seems. What's the circuit? It's like I can't remember now. But anyway, Tim Hollis? Is he doing a vibe circuit? Anyway, I'm going to dig into it. I'm going to find something cool to do with it. But I think he challenged me on this one because he knew it was a good pedal and it tripped me up.
That it would. Oh, I see.
Yeah, it sounds really good. So I don't know what I'm going to do with it.
Can you add things to it, like a clipping stage, or is it already everything there?
It's got a clipping stage by the look of it. I think it's got 4 germanium diodes, funnily enough, doing something like that.
I mean, you could maybe, make some alternate clipping selections, like what we were talking about, the 54, 57, that kind of thing. The infrared LED, the infrared diode, that was suggested by that fellow that I put that in my flash drive. It sounded amazing, really dark.
Really?
Yeah, it was a different kind of clipping symmetry that it gave. So that's another thing to experiment with. I mean, I had no idea. Like once I put those screw-on diodes in and they worked, I was like, these things sound amazing. The only reason why you're not using them in pedals is because they're giant. I mean, it's the size of a spark plug for a small engine.
That sounds good to me.
Mm-hmm.
See, I almost just went with a fuzz face. I was like, you know what? I'll put a fuzz face in it, and that'll just sound that I've got Hendrix in a pedal then. But then I figured that might actually be cheating. It's not really modding the pedal, is it?
It's a bait and switch.
Well, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'll change the brightness of the LEDs on a switch so you can get a different tone out of it, maybe. I don't know. He's got me.
So,
or maybe switch the LEDs and put a different setting and switch them so then the light doesn't actually shine on the old LDRs. I don't know.
It'd be cool if there was some way you could like figure out. You could like put some way to shield it, unshield it, shield it, unshield it, and see if you could.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. If I make it switchable, so I switch to a different set, and the other set could be, I don't know, in the battery space, so they're out the way.
So that you have, so then, you've isolated the light source.
Yeah, I think that might be the way. Anyway,
the interesting challenge.
Here.
Yes.
It turned up today, and I started looking at it and nearly went down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, the thing with this circuit is, I think, like, the Ruby itself is a great amp, and the few problems that people have with it are easily solved. I'm just surprised that there wasn't more information about it out there, and why people are still kind of, not catching on to like how that. So on the amplifier, let's see what I used here. I'm using a 47 nanofarad. So what's that? Like a 0.047?
Yeah. Well, for the input, is that?
Well, that's for no. This is for the jumper, the additional capacitor.
Oh, right. Okay.
That I said you. I'm trying to make sure that I told you the right pins. Let's see. There's one.
Did you say 6 to ground, or is 6 actually?
Let's see. It looks like it's between 2 and 7. Is that right? No, wait, that's not right. 2 and 6.
2
Yeah,
and 6.
you're jumping between 2 and 6 on the IC pin out. Directly between those two pins. And I would assume that 2 is to ground. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're going from pin 6 to ground.
And you're saying 47 NF?
That's for the amplifier. Now, for the effects pedal, you need an electrolytic. That's a static. I was able to work with a 47 NF static on the amplifier design pretty well. But when you get into an effects pedal, you need an electrolytic, and usually something around 22 microfarads.
So the mod I seen was called the high watt mod. I don't know if you've seen that.
I've seen that one. Yeah.
So they're jumping an extra 47 NF cap on the input. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah. It says that's a tone. That's more of a tone mod than anything.
Yeah.
Is to get the high watt tone, and then there's also the bassman mod, by adding the larger value capacitor too. And that's one of the things I did on that speaker amp that I did. I make that switchable, so it's between the. What does it use on that?
Do you go heavy, like a 1UF or 10UF?
I do go 1UF, yeah. I get really heavy.
Yeah.
And 1UF was what I settled on. I experimented with a few different ones.
So I'm thinking I might
that's
try
a little gem.
Make it switchable. Yeah. So you can have like regular Ruby, high watt, and bassman all on
and
the
bassman.
same thing.
Yeah, because I've got my regular Ruby and bassman switchable on mine. And you definitely do get like, some different tones out of it. And let's see.
I find it quite thick anyway. Even with the 47 NF. Yeah.
Well, it's when you actually plug a bass into it that the 0.1 but was I using a 0.1? I think I might have been using a 0.1, not a full 1. I'm trying to remember. I'd have to go back and look. Well, actually, I could take this.
Close to the high watt mod then.
Let's see what this one has.
So one of my shipmates, Stan, he's just been drafted out to Bahrain for 4 months.
Oh,
when
man.
he comes back from the Gulf, he's a bass player. He said, I want to get together and jam, but I fancy a small amp. I practice on. I've just seen you building Ruby amps. Any chance? So I'm going to design a bass. Well, I'd say design a bass one. I'm going to build him a bass one. But there's a company, Goliath Effects. He's a bass player, and he's built a few. He said he's going to send me over the mods that he's done. So hopefully I won't have to do too much figuring out, and I'll at least get that built. But yeah, maybe we could. I'm thinking I'm going to have like a Ruby amp jam session coming up.
Heck yeah!
Pretty cool.
I think on the Ruby, I'm using a 0.1 for my bass. For my bass cap.
Cool.
Yeah, I just pulled mine apart and looked, and so yeah, I think I use a 0.1, and then I'm probably using a 0.01 as its counterpart, like going between those two values. If not a 0.047, I might have like gone 0.01 just for the higher frequency. It's one of those things
I'm
again.
thinking if there's much difference in them, I'll go 6-way maybe and step it up from 0.1 up to 1 UF.
That's one of those things
sorry,
where
up to 1 UF.
when I made my little socketed switch, I was able to like just change capacitor values in there and AB them until I figured out a pair that I liked, and then I would hardwire those onto the switch I would put on the actual final circuit. And so
that's where you need something like a decade box to whiz through it all quickly, and then Simon would go one step further and say that the different types of caps make a different sound.
They do.
And he can hear it. So
yeah, I've had different results depending on whether I was using Mylar, film and foil, or ceramic or mica. When it's in a tone, section, it can play a big difference what the material is.
I think sometimes it's hard for people to appreciate, but if you put a decade box with the same value cap of a different type next to each other and go quickly through them, you're going to notice, and you'll be able to discern which you prefer. For me, though, I tend to just go, well, it looks good. If it looks good, it sounds good.
It sounds good. Hey.
Yeah. It's a terrible philosophy, but it is.
I'm trying to remember what the name for that was. It was like there was a
psychosomatic.
No, it was like the medical things. Like if it looked like a certain body part, you ate it for this illness because it was associated with that. Like if it looks like this, eat it because that's good for this. So naturally, that's how you were able to get people to eat very large root vegetables.
Or in my case, then micro carrots.
So that's what you wanted, huh? Okay. That's what your wife kept feeding you. That's what it is, Joe. Your wife kept feeding you those small carrots. It's like too much, honey, too much. we do want to stay sort of clean. My t-shirt's bad enough. In case you haven't seen.
That's class. Oh, speaking of t-shirts, I've got my new.
Oh yes, you have some new merch. We haven't talked about this this obvious thing.
I had it all set up. I had my t-shirt ready to go.
Yeah. I mean, you got hats, you got t-shirts. What else have you got up there?
Well, I've got my new sound panels now. I got throws, phone cases. I don't know. There's loads of stuff because I'm building a workshop. I wanted like throws so that I could sound deaden places, for recording to stop the echo and stuff.
But you want them to look cool too, so
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And of course I got my dog, so I needed like a dog mat for my dog. I can't have a normal one. It's got to be Hello Sailor.
There you go.
Dog's looking at me now like, what are you on about, mate? We don't do this.
I have nothing to do with this, mate.
He's looking at me like, come on, mate, don't do it. But yeah, I just thought, do you know what it was? I got monetized for YouTube to sell goods. And I was like, well, why not? I'll make some bits.
Yeah. And one of the things as a professional musician that I shunned the, kind of corporate music world when they offered me the contracts of death that, you should never sign. The advance is not an advance that you're given. It's an advance that you owe with interest usually. And, so I went DIY. We made more money usually than we got paid at the venue in our merch sales. We would have our t-shirts, our stickers, we did our own CDs, and we would come home with 3 to 4 times more in our pockets from what we did with our merch sales than what we actually got paid at the venue. And we weren't getting paid peanuts either. We were getting paid pretty well. So
it's always the way.
And
the thing is,
you get a good,
if they're going to promote for you.
Yeah, you get a good design.
Promotion for you.
It's free advertising. You get a good design, and it's almost like something. Once you get that set, and you've got a good producer, it's just you don't have to. Yeah. When you're actually making the shirts yourself, that's a different story. But when you got somebody that can produce them, like this one's hand printed. Like the artist and I printed this one together. This was in memory for a lost friend. And then also I'm wearing this in memory of the person who drew it, because he's no longer with us, you know, one of my close musical collaborators. But when I saw you put this on the thumbnail, the version in black, I was like, oh, I've got to wear the OG one that I printed myself now.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's actually quite hard to do as well, printing a t-shirt. I've had a few goes at it. It's not a skill that you can just pick up without some practice.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I went through a little bit of an apprenticeship, you know, when I first started learning how to screen print. I went through everything from, you know, making the images to burning them onto the emulsions and washout, you know, the whole 9 yards, using the enlarger, reducer to get your image the right size, choice of screen size, like how many holes per inch, you know, DPI, whatever you're trying to go for. So
that's crazy.
You and now it's all done by computer.
Of jobs.
You would not believe the number of things that I've done. People don't. They're like, you're lying. I'm like, well, I don't want to take the time to try and prove it to you, because I got more things to go do. Like, you know, that's the reason why I've done so many things, is I don't spend my time bullshitting, you know, with like trying to prove things to people. It's like, you know, if you don't believe me, that's on you, man. Like, I'm just going to go do the things that I keep doing. So
I've only had one job. I keep saying I'm going to leave and get a real job one day, but I've only ever had the one.
Well, you got something
with the old,
yep,
with the old poplar, the Pi Poplar Ruby amp is the one that we were just talking about. It's the bakelite, all bakelite amplifier.
Oh yeah,
tiny.
that one.
It was the smallest one of the bunch
of the series you built.
Yeah, and do you know what? For me, it was the worst sounding, just because it's so small. But again, if you want something that you can put in your pocket, then
well, and that's where the beauty of adding the external speaker out to it comes in. Like, then, you know, if it doesn't sound good through the internal speaker, you always go plug it into another one.
Well, I built one for Blind John Guitars in a pedal enclosure.
Oh, so and yeah, he's doing some great stuff recently too. Like
his Raven guitar is just unbelievable.
I know. I've been following that. It's been.
So he's like, oh no, Wade! He's the first person to ever pay for the the super chat. You really don't need to do that, mate.
Oh
man,
thank
you very much. That's amazing. Yeah,
we should have some sort of stinger for that. Like, we're not prepared.
Do you know what? I know.
Wait,
crazy.
You got the ship blowing up somewhere, right?
Oh yeah, fair on. Also, I forgot last episode we talked about this, and I said I was going to give it away to the best. Yeah, I know. I completely forgot.
I know.
So the best remix actually come from Marsden Amplification. So I'll be. I don't think he's in the chat today, but I'll be sending him a message. His video was. Oh, there you go.
There we go. There's your stinger.
His video was insane. He remixed it with some other stuff, and it was really good.
Oh, he took the remix to the obvious,
the next level.
To the remix.
I got to say, another thank you. I'll check on my phone quickly to Don't Ask Me Duncan. He remixed it like 5 times, something like that. So he went for it. Great. Oh, we need some JHS stingers. There you go.
Yeah, we do.
Like,
yep.
Like that he has the box.
That's the first thing that popped into mind. Like, he has the box. Or Josh is having a meltdown.
Seriously, on another note, I think we should do some sort of giveaway, maybe once a month or something. I'm definitely for that.
Yeah, definitely.
So, because well, it was fun for me to see what people come up with a remix, but maybe we should set a challenge for that Ruby amplifier I've got.
There you go.
Someone can remix. There you go. I'll put it out there now. Someone remixes this episode now. I'll put that Ruby amplifier up on our next show. Whoever does the best remix, you get it. Look at that. And I'm on my phone now, ending the Ruby amplifier off the website. Otherwise, someone will go along and buy it. And
somebody will come snatch it.
Make a fool of me. Yeah. But yeah, if whoever remixes the best part of this, I suggest you probably pick something that John's been saying intellectually about the circuit, and not me going, I've never modded it before.
Yeah, but you have funnier faces.
Yeah,
There was a funnier voice though. We've had the crud going around here. I've been fighting it.
Oh, I bet you have. Yeah.
The weather changed.
How's
it got
that?
really cold, and then it got really warm again. I stayed up really late. It's a nightmare. I mean, there's reports that are coming out now. I don't even want to like start fueling any speculation about stuff, just because it's, we'll just say when it's all said and done and the dust settles and the mud's cleared, that there's going to be a lot of questions that need to be answered.
Really?
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that's misinformation out there, but there's a lot of stuff that's being labeled as misinformation that's actually true. And it's just embarrassing information. There's a difference between embarrassing information and misinformation. You can't just call something misinformation because it embarrasses you. You can't say it's a lie because you're embarrassed by the truth.
We see that a lot in our media over here.
We see that a lot in everyone, everywhere, all the time, no matter what.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
that's just human nature.
In the UK, we've had several different stories for the situation over for you guys.
Oh, I'm sure.
Most
yeah,
definitely.
That's one of the reasons why I used to watch BBC News all the time, was to see what kind of take they were getting on what we were being fed. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't watch BBC News now.
Not now, yeah. No, I mean this was decades ago, back when it kind of mattered.
Yeah.
So, especially whenever there was a war on, apparently on American soil, back in the turn of the millennium.
Yeah. Yeah, BBC News ain't too accurate now. I've been places where I'm like, what? That's not happening right now.
That's not happening right now. Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's as somebody who worked in the field as a radio broadcast journalist and also as a print journalist, it has become something that it was never, in a million years thought it would become. It's not actually journalism anymore. It's, information management is what they call it.
Yeah.
You're not a journalist, you're an information manager. And you're basically controlling a narrative rather than reporting facts, and it's pretty much propaganda. I mean, you just call it like it is. It's propaganda. It's no longer news at that point. Yeah. You've lost the factual realm. So it's caveat emptor.
Well, I pay for ground news because then you get to read everything, and it gives you percentages of who's reporting on what from all sites and who owns the news channels.
And like who the source is being funded by, because it says droves. It's like you can see all kinds of studies that tell you, all sorts of things are the exact opposite, and then you see who funded the study.
Yeah.
It's like, they had a vested interest in this turning out a certain way, didn't they?
And so if anyone's interested, I'm funding a study on why JFET sound the best.
You need to send us a sample of all of your JFETs, and we'll test them accordingly, and we'll give you our results.
But no return on the JFETs.
Well, once they're soldered onto the boards, there's nothing we can do.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it is interesting because at first we've seen lots of news about you guys. I mean, you were like number one on every news channel, and now
it's the news cycle. I mean, there's nothing.
I think
new.
We're down to Florida now.
It's like I just saw a news story that I thought had happened recently. A whole house blew up in a neighborhood in Philadelphia, somewhere in Pennsylvania. It happened 10 months ago. It was like a whole house just blew up, and I never heard anything about it. And it was somebody had been shooting flares out of their house, and police raided the house, and they were getting ready to bring in the SWAT team with the battering ram, and apparently the guy blew himself up inside the house.
What?
And I've heard no follow-up. No reason why. Like, why did he shoot 30 or 40 flares into places in his neighborhood to get the police to come in the first place? It's like, this happened 10 months ago and it just showed up on my feed last night. So there you go.
Yeah. I've noticed my feed tries to confirm what I think rather than challenge it. If I think something's right, then I start thinking it's wrong then, because, you know, they're telling you what you want to know.
Oh yeah, the confirmation bias, it's there. Like it knows what you like, it knows what you don't like.
If you go on my YouTube, you will literally find Les Pauls in literally every post. I would say almost every single thing is something to do with a Les Paul.
You're going to find mixed martial arts, pedal builders, strange, dark, and mysterious stories, and probably some things that were like, why did I search for that? Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I think my bank account would cry if it seen my YouTube search history.
I probably would.
Oh, speaking of guitars, check this bad boy out. Has anyone else tried the the Mike McCready?
Oh, the Mike McCready Strat.
Mike McCready. No,
I have not tried that one.
Which is this? This isn't the white one with all the with the, what should we call it, the sustainer in and stuff, is it?
I haven't kept up with current trends on that stuff.
Oh man, I tell you what, I've been on the search for the Strat for so long because I just don't like Strats. Mm-hmm. I want to like them; they look good. I love Hendrix, but I can't.
I played one that you might like, the Eric Johnson signature model that was semi-hollow.
Yeah, and Eric Johnson has an ear.
Mm-hmm. It had the Evo frets, 3-tone burst. Oh yeah.
It's 60s relic. Oh yeah, so that's rosewood board then. Yeah, I'm down with that. Like, I'm definitely a rosewood board guy. Although my Strat's got a maple board, so go figure.
I like them both. I've got one of each. I got the rosewood on my Olympic white, and then the maple on my 63.
So what pickups you got on your McCready? What is it, like Fender wound pickups, or have you got something else in there? I've got a set of, who built mine? It was Radio Shop pickups to the Chris Buck ID Core set. It's basically they're meant for a maple board Strat, and it's like a Chris Buck signature set. Mm-hmm. That guy, his playing's just insane. And so if he put his hand in a fire, I would definitely do that too. So I had to buy his pickups. Oh man, yeah. And I tell you what, speaking about the Ruby amp, you can't half tell the difference between my Les Paul and my Strat going into that thing, because there's such a, an output difference on it. It really does vary with what you put into it.
With what you put into it.
It's not one of them amps that like sounds the same with everything, like a digital thing can. And it takes pedals equally.
It takes pedals, it takes pedals really nicely.
Oh, so 60s voice single coils we've got here, made to his own spec. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you can do inside of your pickups to change your tone. I mean, that's the most important thing. All the arguments over tone wood and all this other stuff, and then there's the guy who just like basically has the pickup on the board with the strings and the bridge and the tuners, and it sounds exactly the same as when it's installed in a guitar. Leo Fender, actually that was his thing. Like, he had a rig where that's all he did was just test different pickup designs, because he knew that's where the tone was in the pickup.
He got so many things right first time round.
He really did. Yeah. Well, and also the people that he had working for him. Now, it was not a one-man show. Like, you had, was it Tavares, the designer?
Who's the guy White for the amplifiers?
Yeah.
But yeah, they did the white amps, didn't they, for him?
Was it Freddie Tavares? Somebody might have to correct me, but whoever it was that had the design genius, like the shapes that we know and love, that's nothing to do with Leo Fender. Leo Fender was the man who was smart enough to hire the people that had the eye and the aesthetic. So Fender is just the last name that's on the company, but the company was way stronger than just Leo. He was a brilliant man.
Imagine thinking you could take a 60s or 50s Fender neck and throw it away and put a new one on. That was his.
Oh, I know, that was his thought. Modularity, or
Yeah, mad.
The reason why he started putting the rosewood caps on is he hated the way that the maple boards started looking on TV after they've been played for a while. It was an aesthetic thing. It had nothing to do with tone or playability. It was like, I don't want my guitars looking like that on TV. I mean, that was it.
Well, we had the same with Gibson, didn't they? The old TV.
The TV yellow. Yeah, because like the white guitar was like looking like an alien ghost, floating around. You could see them use that as special effects too. They'd dress somebody in white when they needed like a special aura around them.
But it's not even that. Not just Fender. I mean, think about Gibson. They did the Flying V and all of them in a year, along with the ES guitars. What a time to be alive.
Well, that was also. Yeah, that was a direct response to Fender handing them, their what's in the market. Like they were like, we got to do something different, guys. We got to stand out. Nobody wants our, But it didn't hurt that people like Pete Townsend played the SG, and Eric Clapton would play the SG too. It's like, you kind of had Guitar Mania running wild there for a while, and then you had all the Japanese house brands like flooding the market with cheap guitars because everybody wanted a guitar in the 60s.
Yeah, I feel like that's on the verge of coming back.
Oh yeah, it definitely seems like it has already. Like you see like guitar everywhere, like just guitar this, guitar that. It's like suddenly, like guitars for kids, like infants.
It was
like
Oasis last time this happened. It was the whole, the mid 90s Oasis when they started banging out the 3-chord songs and stuff, the Beatles rehashes.
Oh yeah,
that made guitar go real popular, and I just feel we're on the verge of that happening again.
I think it's the uptick of YouTubers. Guitar YouTubers, because they like skyrocketed. I remember watching Davey 504 when he had like just a few thousand subscribers, and now he's like over 10 million.
Oh yeah.
Just for like playing like funky bass lines and like having a character, and maintaining that character and like creating that zeitgeist and going viral. And, so now you've got 10 million people that want to play bass.
Yeah. Yeah, it's mad.
10 million. Yeah. That's a pretty hefty chunk of a market.
But yeah, you can never find a bass player.
Oh, you can. They're in their living room making YouTube videos. If you want to find a bass player, you just go check the bedroom. He's in there making a YouTube video.
Yeah, maybe I'll learn to play bass. And then I won't have to butcher the guitar.
That's why I learned how to play bass. It was like the perfect fusion of being a horrible guitar player and an excellent drum player. I can be an okay bass player.
You've got me beat there because I can't do any of them.
I've got friends that say, I can play the radio. That's about it.
Yeah.
If it's got a volume knob and I can turn it on, I can play it.
That's me. All right, well, I think we've
hour and 40.
Yeah.
Well, we have some other things that this can permeate into. I didn't want to go too deep into it because I wanted to stick with the Ruby. I definitely wanted to mention, that thing with the capacitor, jumping that between legs 2 and 6 on your IC. That is something.
I'm going to try that.
Yeah, you should just incorporate that into all your builds. And a lot of the problems and gremlins that you've noticed over the years will disappear like magic.
There's been a few I've built that if you turn the drive all the way up, it gets a pretty nasty sound out of it. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking that might be the key.
That's probably the key right there. Is probably farting out like from voltage starve, micro voltage starve probably, but still, when you're operating like when I started understanding like the ranges of fluctuation that were being utilized for these things to work, I'm like, who figured this stuff out, man? Like, you know, I'm glad somebody with a slide rule and no sex life had more time on their hands than I did, because, you know.
Yeah, that's it. I'm a plug and play guy.
It's like, ooh, this sounds good.
To test this mod, I'm literally going to go and take a cap and stick it across them pins to see what I like.
Do it. That's how I did it. I mean, that's how I did it, man. I was like, oh yeah, really? And so it's like, okay.
Yeah. And I'm also going to start building them with a battery. Not a battery, sorry, with a power supply. Because, you know,
the external power supply key.
It just seems a bit, I like the idea of the battery thing. But
now, you definitely, this is one of those circuits too, when you do plug it into an external power supply, make sure you plug it into a good one. Because if you have a dirty power supply, it will show. If your wall wart is... if your wall wart or your power supply is bad, it comes through this amp like you would not believe.
I usually use the filter on a Crybaby wire. It's just a high value cap, a low value cap, and a small resistor. Have that on here. I think that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, to clean it up, because anything in the power supply, even the battery power. When I'm running these things off battery power, you know, if there's any dirt in the battery circuit, it's going to show. It's weird.
Yeah. So that's definitely happening. Watch out for that, because I'll have a few of them available sooner, though.
Right on.
I think Wadey's hit it perfectly on the head there. You guys have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you all soon.
Yes, sir. Cheers, Wadey.